Well, hello everyone. It is Friday, the 8th of March. Can you believe it's the 8th of March? Not the Ides of March, that's the 15th, but it's the 8th of March, and this is your Friday Status Chat. I am Delbridge at Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and here we go. Now today I want to talk about something I really hadn't intended to start with this day, but some news came out. We'll look at that in the middle segment. If you like this content, please go to calldeltosell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. All right, so I got something here on the middle panel that we'll look at. We want to look at some news. You know how to use the Googleator, so use your Bing machine or your Duck or whatever you want to use. But I just went over here and I pulled up something on jobs news today. And we see the February jobs report, U.S. economy. And it's 3 hours ago, so this is timely and topical. And it says we had 275,000 jobs. Unemployment rates hits 3.9. We just looked through here, but I was looking at some of these to see what they said to pick you a good one out. And here we have CNBC. They for the most part, they do a pretty good job, I think, of being, not all that leaning left or right or whatever they seem to. This one is by Jeff Cox, published March 8th, which is today, not the Ides of March, that's the 15th. And then we have it 2024, 8:31 a.m. So it's pretty well much right off the press. And I just want to hit these main points here after I read the top line. I about got ahead of myself. It says U.S. job growth totaled 275,000 in February, but unemployment rate rose to 3.9. Now, the reason I bring this to you is if you have watched, you see that a couple of weeks back, we were looking at the Beige report. It may have been all the way back in December, and I was saying, no, we were looking at the JOLTS, CES, the current employment situation, and we were looking at those and we were saying, yes, but where are the jobs happening? We keep touting these high numbers. Another topic we hit was when the government has bad news, they usually, I won't say they lie to you, but they seem if they're going to do a revision, it's generally a revision down in a positive area to make it a little less rosy, that they'll revise down after they've hit the news cycle and they've got the information out. And it turns out that we've done that with the jobs. They weren't quite as good as we expected because they wanted to say, hey, jobs were better than expected. Go back and look at what they revised them to with what they expected, and oftentimes you'll find out they're pretty close to the same. So they announce better than expected and then secretly sneak in something less than expected. Works with inflation, any kind of bad news that they do this with. So here we are in our center panel, and we've got CNBC. This is something right off. You'll find the link to this in your description of the status chat over on the YouTube page where this status chat lives. And this is what I want to point out. When we were looking at the jobs report and looking where the jobs were coming in, we saw a pattern that they're now admitting. Non-farm payrolls rose by 275,000 for a month, while jobless rates moved higher at 3.9%. Wall Street had been looking for 198,000 new jobs. See, so we exceeded that, right? We got 275 new jobs and an unemployment rate of 3.7. What they're looking for is a reason to see the cost of money go down. We want to see the Fed drop those rates. And remember, we've covered that as well. Lots of people who are out there in sales telling you they're going down, look for it. That didn't happen. Fed said what the Fed said. Then the Fed started even to back off from that because I think they're doing that because they see other things that the news media doesn't report. They always want to paint the rosiest picture and hope that emotion carries you through. Well, now they're admitting something right here, that unemployment rate was above expectations, but they're saying they're leading with the jobs increase. But now look what it says. If we had this many payrolls increase, how do we get unemployment to go higher than expected? Downward revisions to December and January reduced the initial estimates by 167,000 jobs. 160,000 jobs. Well, look right here. 167,000 jobs is almost what we expected to put on in February. Didn't happen. So they're already getting a little loosey-goosey with the facts. But here's the thing. Wages rose 0.1%. Don't spend it all in one place. Now, we got that here, but right here, 0.1 of a percentage point below the estimate, and we're up 4.3% from a year ago. Well, how was your inflation? Is it 4.3%? Because that's what your wages went up. All right. So back with the sarcasm, we're back here. Here is the tagline I want to draw attention to, because this is what we saw in the JOLTS report and the CES. It said healthcare led with 67,000 new jobs. Can't get away without having healthcare. And government, again, was the big contributor. I think it was just last jobs report we looked at. All the gains, if it weren't for the government, we'd have had significant losses. So here we go, a big contributor with 52,000, while restaurants and bars added 42,000. So what we see is we need to pay attention to where these job losses are and where the gains are, because if we fall for the number in total, we can sometimes lose what's really going on in the real economy, because not everybody works for the government. Not everybody works in healthcare. Some people work in automotive, and we have been watching the automotive industry slide a little bit. We've been watching EVs tank. I think that's mainly because the technology just isn't there, and people are getting wise about it. But we're still seeing automotive's segment come down, and I think if we see any kind of layoffs in automotive, I would expect that the companies will build their inventories through the first half of the year and then lay off in the second half of the year, because they'll have enough stock stockpiled for the rest of the expected calendar year. So I don't think we've seen the worst jobs yet, and I think the Fed is smart enough to know that, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're saying no rate cuts till the second half, because I'm thinking that's when we're going to see the jobs really start to take effect, when we're going to start to see that unemployment head toward 5%. I think 5% has historically been a number they've been looking for. We're way off from that. Inflation is still out of hand. So there's really not the reason to drop the rates. Although if we pull up Mortgage News Daily, which I'll do in this new tab right here. Now, Mortgage News Daily here, this is what we're going to look at, 30-year fixed rate mortgages. And we have seen this blue line go down. So mortgages are falling despite the fact that we haven't had a change in the Fed rate. And if we look, they were at a peak about, what's down there at the bottom, 226. So about the last of February, they were at their peak, and we have dropped down there since then, 6.85 from the 715 Mortgage News Daily thing. So we still see that the mortgage rates are going to fluctuate without the Fed doing its deal. Now, stock market didn't seem to like this much, and it's been kind of slipping over the last couple of days, but that's just how things go. So what's it all mean? It means that I think between now and July, we're not going to see any rate changes, and I think the jobs are going to kind of hold, but I think we need to watch where the job losses are happening and what's responsible for keeping them up. And most importantly, we need to be aware when the government comes out with one of these rosy reports, better than expected, there's a good chance they're going to revise them right back down after we quit looking in that corner and we get on to the next thing, because we tend to squirrel. We all do it. We're human. And psychologists know that. That's why they tend to give you the better than expected in the mainstream media and then kind of hide back. But today we see, at least CNBC pointed out that the jobs are in healthcare and government. Not new. It's been that way for a couple months now. Other job sectors are losing a little bit. And so we just need to be aware of that, because you may not work for the government or in healthcare. So, all right, let's wrap this show up. Hello, I'm Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel. Call Del to Sell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout, and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Okay, alrighty, let's go before the 90. We're a little bit early today with our presentation. So, last week we had 3-1 of 24. The numbers for the opportunities were 18,025, which fell. So the total opportunities fell a little bit over the preceding week. We had 3956 in the under contracts, still holding on to them, still showing. So we raised to 22% integer ratio between the two of them. So we're starting to see the proportion of under contracts, but still showing them that they're technically thinking they're sold, but they haven't closed yet, so they might still be there. They went up, so the ratio went up to 22%. This week, 3-8 of 24. We had 18,311. That's a pretty good surge there in the opportunities of a little less than 300 homes out of that. Opportunities that came out of that. So that went up. we had in the under contract still showing, they also jumped up to 4,101. So that went up just a little less than 200. And it's, of course, the smaller of the two numbers. So we had probably had a bigger gain in the under contract still showing. But the ratio at the integer level remained the same at 22%. So if you have a home and you want to get it sold before the things, if you think the economy is going to get a little worse, the credit's going to get a little tighter, jobs are going to get a little harder to come by, maybe start to lose a little bit, now is the time for you to get that home listed. And I'll leave it at that. I want you to have a good weekend. Come back and see me next week. And I appreciate you liking and subscribing, all that kind of stuff, and sharing the word of this, because I don't normally look like a typical agent. In fact, that's one of my hashtags, not a typical agent. Appreciate you. Stay safe.